What we're going to do now is a cutting and parrying exercise. I am going to be attacking Gary. Gary is going to be defending. For every cut that I make, I'm going to make a single step advance. For every defense that Gary makes, he will make a single step retreat. Now, the important thing here is not just the proper cutting technique, the proper reaction to the parry, and the proper parry position. It's also maintaining the distance between us. So I don't get too close to Gary, Gary doesn't get too close to me. We have to be perfectly coordinated. I cannot make big steps forward if he is not going to make big steps back. So we're going to keep basically the normal single step advance, reach step retreat, and I am going to be cutting to his 4, to his 3, and to his 5. The reason I'm starting with his 4 is because when we are already in the on-guard position, his sword is in the 3 position, or at least halfway to it. Just in terms of choreography, I am not going to make my first attack to an area where the sword already is. It makes no sense. However, Gary's left side is now completely open, so that's where my first attack is going to be. I'm going to force him to move his sword on his first parry. So, 4, 3, 5. We're going to do the same exercise, except now we're going to target the cuts to the lower body, specifically to the hips. That means that Gary is going to be doing the parries of Prime and Segonde rather than the parries of Carte and Tierce. Everything else is going to be identical. We're going to end up at the parry of 5, not the parry of 6. There's going to be a very good reason for that, which we'll talk about in the next phrase. And neutral on guard, and Prime, 2, 5. We're now going to do an exercise where I'm going to be attacking Gary, and I am going to make advances, cutting while I advance. Gary is going to be making parries while he retreats. But this time, instead of making a single step advance for every cut and a single step retreat for every parry, we're going to mix them up a little bit. We're going to use the pass step that we taught earlier. You remember, where the left foot passes in front and then the right foot passes back so that you're in your original position. It's not necessary to have a fight scene where every blow is struck on a single step and every parry is made on a single advance. You can mix them up a little bit for variation. Now, there's another reason for mixing them up, and we'll sort of implement that in a moment. First thing I'm doing is I'm getting my measure, getting my distance. When you are in an on-guard position, you should be slightly out of distance so that when you make your first attack move, it reaches your opponent. So I'm going to start from here. I'm going to be cutting into Gary's 4, his 2, and his 5. In other words, his left shoulder, his right hip, and center head. I'm going to be making the 4 cut from my elbow. I'm going to be making my 2 cut and my 5 cut from my wrist. And that, coupled with the pass step, is going to make a change in rhythm. Now, initially, we are going to do this exercise 1, 2, 3, just to make sure that everything is clear and precise. Once we get fluidity and a little bit of speed to it, you're going to see the rhythm change. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Neutral, and 4, 2, 5,